Well, would you look at that? Just look at it. And I'm back. We did it. We did a restart. What was the UX on that? Like from the Twitch side? 13. I should restart streams in the middle more often. I'm pumping my numbers here. Blurry-ish. How about this? Ooh, okay. We can get away with a lot of zooming, actually. Okay. Stream says 1080p, but the text is blurry. Ooh, I'm streaming the whole desktop. Let's get even more clever. I have an idea. I really appreciate y'all helping with this like debugging kind of stuff. It actually does mean a lot to me because I'm trying to make these better streams every day. And this is exactly how we do that. So we stop and then we start. I'm not going to share the whole screen. I am going to share the whole window because I'm consistently switching between tabs. Let's try that. Bitrate, Silent Dojo. How do I check my bitrate? What are you talking about? And go. That's looking kind of cute to me. What do y'all think? Is good enough good enough? Oh, no. First of all, make my face HD. That's the most important part. Great. Great. Let's go. Wow, good thing I was reading it. Bless your hearts for sitting here with an illegible React tutorial and considering that a good use of your time. I cherish you all. Okay. I mean, like the fastest recap, we started a React tutorial. I'm doing this more visually than like verbally. We started the tutorial, immediately learned about a component, which was called my button, and then immediately put that component inside of the bigger component, which was the whole app. Then we rendered that, creating our first React app, which was over here. And then I played around and added some fun words like pal and dude and an emoji to it. So we've created our first React app. And the nice thing about this is that I don't even have to click save or update or anything. It's just in real time updating it. So milestone number 1, we've created our first React app. Everything from here is just making them cuter and fancier. We talked about JSX. We talked about tags. We talked about tag notation. Now we're going to get into styles. Here we go. Adding styles. In React, you specify a CSS class with class name, just like that. And then you write CSS rules for it in a separate CSS file. So if this class name is avatar over in the JSX, that shows up in double quotes. But then over in your CSS file, it's referred to by this .avatar notation. That's a CSS thing. Thank you, Jennifer, for posting the doc link. I appreciate you. For anyone that wants to follow along at home, which I recommend you do, I recommend you bookmark this. I recommend you continue learning. We're looking at border radius : 50%. So this is the one bit of styling being added to the avatar class name. Avatar, of course, the little profile picture thing, and then border radius 50%. That means, what does that mean? CSS border radius. Tell me more. W3 schools, Beam, which is apparently, there we go, border radius. So if you just give, yeah, it's rounding the corners. I wish this was like something I could click at. I can. Oh my God. Here we go. Border radius. So this is given in absolute pixels. Let's try it in a percent instead. Run. Wow. Look at how rounded that is. What's 100% rounded mean? What's 10% rounded mean? Less round. Huh. Okay. So that's what we're doing over here. We're telling it, these avatars, make sure you round them a little bit. React does not prescribe how you add CSS files. In the simplest case, you'll add a link tag to your HTML. If you use a build tool or a framework like Next.js, consult its documentation to learn how to add a CSS file to your project. And thus we encounter for the first time one of the things React is famous for, not being super opinionated and being kind of flexible and being like, y'all could do it however you want. And then you end up with different frameworks and layers of abstraction on top of React that go on and make their own opinions about how to do things. This would be in contrast to something like Angular, which would be like, this is exactly how you do it, and everyone has to do it this way. And we've already thought about all the examples, and this is how you do all of them. And it's way more prescriptive, and there's at least clarity in the community about how we do things here. But then it becomes, it can feel like a straitjacket sometimes and less flexible. And like there's more overhead, like a steeper learning curve to be able to use it. Displaying data. We're moving on from styling. We understand styling theoretically. I would not say that I personally understand how to implement styling yet. Like, I know they told me how, but if I were at a hackathon and it was like, can you make this green? I'd be like, and then have to pull this up again. Displaying data. JSX lets you put markup into JavaScript. Curly braces let you escape back into JavaScript so that you can embed some variable from your code and display it to the user. For example, this will display user.name. So in a heading, this is in the style of a heading 1, we use this curly brace to let the JSX know, all right, what I'm about to write, interpret it as JavaScript. Do not interpret it as HTML. So this is that X part. And so it's just like as if it were wearing the red and blue 3D glasses and was looking through the red eye, it closes the other eye, and now it's looking through the blue eye, and it's like, oh, JavaScript? What'd you want to say to me? This is the user object, which has the name property. It probably has a lot of different properties like name or account age or height or whatever. So we're just grabbing a specific piece of the user object. This is one piece of data and displaying it here. You can also escape into JavaScript from JSX attributes, but you have to use curly braces instead of quotes. For example, class name avatar passes the avatar string as the CSS class, but this source tag, src, user.imageURL, excuse me, reads the JavaScript user.imageURL variable value. Whatever the value is of this user object, it has an image URL property. It takes that value and passes that value as the source attribute. Whatever this is, source is going to read it in right here. Okay. This is nice because then we don't have to repeat ourselves. Don't repeat yourself, DRY, dry code. You don't have to hard code the image URL. You can just refer to it this way in all the different components. You can put more complex expressions inside the JSX curly braces too. For example, string concatenation, where you smash two strings together. Okay, now we get to play. Const. So let's define this user object. It has these are keys and values. The key is on the left, the name, and the value is on the right. A string, and a number. So the name, Hedy Lamarr, presumably a famous actress from the 20th century. Image URL, and there's the source of where it is. Let's confirm that's actually a thing. It is, in fact. Here it is, just waiting for us. 90 pixels by 90 pixels. And then that profile, which is the main function here of our app. This is the app. We return, and then here's our JSX. We've got some empty tags around the whole thing. We've got our main heading, user.name. It's grabbing the Hedy Lamarr string. And then this image tag. Oh, cool, it does the highlighting. So this image tag, all this code is inside this image tag, which I find visually, this is the kind of thing I have to slow down for. This is not obvious to me, that this is all existing like on one line, like this. Like all this stuff is in this tag, right? Like that. But we write it this way to be much cleaner. So as for styling, this is inheriting from class name avatar. Shout outs to anyone that can tell me what this line 12 is doing specifically in changing how this gets displayed over here. Tell me in whatever terms make sense to you, what is the effect of line 12 on our code? Or in other words, if I comment out line 12, how will it change the thing being displayed on the right? Is a little what we call back in the teaching business a check for understanding. I would like to see if anyone can tell me. So how will this change if I comment out line 12? What would we expect to change about what we're seeing here? What specifically will change, and how will it change? While you write that, I'll keep going. The source of the image is user.imageURL. That's this link. Alt, this is the alt text. Like, for example, if it's an accessibility thing, if somebody can't see, then you would write in photo of, and then here it's actually dynamically bringing in the username. This is the string concatenation from before. User.name, string, alt text, photo of, space, close it, plus, and then user.name. So this alt text, if I hover, no, I guess it's just like if I had a software that's reading it. Huh, bummer. Thought I could see that. So that's our alt text. And then the style, we're doing some styling inside the profile component, not over in CSS. How wide is it? Well, it's the size of the image. How tall is it? That's the size of the image. Oh, that was hard-coded, 90. It coincidentally is a 90 pixel by 90 pixel picture, but this is a very hard code way of doing it rather than like reading it in from the file itself. So let's find the answer to my impromptu quiz. What will happen when we comment out a class name avatar? The thing that avatar is doing is the border radius from up here, border radius 50%. And we saw that border radius is the thing that makes it round, gives it a radius, makes it more like a circle. So if we comment that out, the original picture we saw was a square. Let's see if when we comment it out, it turns into a square. I understand JavaScript and CSS. Things are going well. I'm proud. I'm proud of us. So this is a bunch of image tag stuff, and a bunch of what we're doing is being handled with these curly braces in the JSX style. I keep using this term dynamically. Like, it'll change depending on which user it's looking at, and that way we don't have to change it ourselves. Very powerful. Why are there two of these? So the first one makes us escape back to JSX, and then we create an object, an unnamed object. So the style is, this is JSON notation. This is JavaScript object notation. So we create an object that has a width and a height. Okay, so we had to create these so that we could have an object and then pipe in its keys and values, the width and the height. Oof, that's brutal. I definitely would never have thought to do double of these. That's hard. Ooh, that's going to get me later. You can clip me now saying this will mess me up later. I guarantee. Oh, I also have a habit of doing this in tutorials where I'll like do a rant about a thing they're about to explain. In the above example, style, and then with two sets of curly braces, it's not a special syntax, but that's a regular object inside the JSX tags, curly braces. Yeah, Beam and I agree that this is easier to read. like this. It makes it much more clear what's going here. It reminds me of arrow function notation. Like, why is this an empty object? I want this to be like const styling equals. How do you do objects? Where was the, sorry if I'm giving anyone whiplash here. Where's the, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to be a named object. What do you hate about that? Unexpected let. Okay, fine. Styling. Yeah. And then let's make its width like bigger. Yeah, see, so this is just an unnamed object. It doesn't need an anonymous object. But now we're being a little more efficient. We didn't need to give it a name because the name's not relevant because it's only happening here. And then we didn't even need all these spaces. Okay. I definitely needed to slow that down. That part was kind of crazy. Conditional rendering. In React, there is no special syntax for writing conditions. Instead, you'll use the same techniques as you use when writing regular JavaScript code. Yay! We have if, we have then, we have if else, all the things. We have catch. For example, you can use an if statement to conditionally include JSX. And this is where it gets fun. This is why React folks like how economical their code can be. Let content. Okay, so we've got all of our content. If is logged in, this is a very concise way of saying if is logged in is equal to true, then this stuff. Content equals admin panel. Content equals admin panel. Oh, content hasn't been, okay, content's fresh. Content will be the admin panel component. But if is logged in is not true, then the else logic happens instead. Content will instead be the login form component. Of course, this makes sense. If somebody's not logged in, give them the login form. If they are logged in, give them the admin panel so they can do administrative things because, you know, they're logged in. And then return, this is all some like within the component, the app component or whatever. In a div, the content. And so in this way, it will determine which content to give them based on whether is logged in is true. Sweet, sweet. So at a high level, we can use logic based on the state of certain variables, such as is logged in, to change what we display. If you prefer more compact code, you can use the conditional question mark operator. Unlike if, it works inside JSX. Whoa, okay, so we skipped the whole first part. We are just in the div. Wowie zowie, all right? And then we open up our JSX. This is, I think, called a ternary operator? Conditional ternary operator. Who did free code camp tutorials last year? This guy. So this logic, this is not worth getting into, but I'll explain it real quick. This is an if statement for the thing that precedes the question mark. That's easy to remember because you go, is logged in? And then read the question like that. If it's true, the thing right after the question mark happens, admin panel. And then this colon is a very concise way of saying else. If it's not true, then you do this other stuff. So question mark, colon, accomplish the entire if-then sequence. And then we close our JSX, and only one of these will happen, depending on is logged in. When you don't need the else branch, you can use an even shorter logical syntax with the double and. Wow, we're getting really concise. Is logged in and admin panel. So admin panel is true. There's no part of admin panel that's false. But this will only display if both parts of this conditional statement are true. So it's evaluating this as a JavaScript logic and checking that both parts of the statement are true. Sorry about that. If isLoggedIn is false, then this whole thing will not be true because both parts have to be true. And because it's not true, it won't render admin panel. I can appreciate the brevity of that. That's nice. I need you to go hush. All of these approaches also work for conditionally specifying attributes. So far, we've only been doing whether or not to display a component. You can also do how you display it, its attributes. If you're unfamiliar with some of this JavaScript syntax, you can always start by using if-else. There's no shame in if-else, everybody. You don't have to be fancy. The goal is working software. We're using an agile development style. If it works, I don't care if you use if-else, ternary, double ampersand, anything's fine if it works. Especially at a hackathon. Rendering lists. The section you didn't know you were excited for. You will rely on JavaScript features like for loops and the array map function to render lists of components. For example, let's say you have an array of products. So we've got our products variable. It is an array with, in the 0th index, this object, title, the string cabbage, ID, the number 1. And then so on. We have the next object, garlic, ID 2, and then apple, ID 3. Keep in mind, in computers, we start counting at 0. So index 0, index 1, index 2 in our array. Inside your component, use the map function. This method comes out of the box in JavaScript for all arrays to transform an array of products into an array of LI. That's an HTML tag that stands for list item. So we don't know how many things are in this list item, or how many list items are in this products array. But the good news is we don't even have to know. Let's see how we can be fancy. Const list items equals products.map. This is a mapping. So there's going to be an input, the product, but okay. So here's how .map works. It's going to iterate through the array, one index at a time. And each iteration, it'll grab whatever's in that index as its own little piece. For example, this object will be the first thing it grabs, title, cabbage, ID 1, as an object. And we're assigning that a variable name right here, product. Product had not been used before. We're going to use it here in the context of the map function. So we're giving it a new variable name, this particular item in the array. Whichever item we have at that time is called product. That's why it's singular. And then we have an arrow function, which is our way of saying, for each product, do something with it. After the arrow, here's what we do with it. We're going to make a list item tag. The key is product.id. This way we get to utilize our ID. And then in between the tags, we're going to have some text, which is the product.title. Of that particular product, the title attribute is whatever this string is. And this map will go through the first one, and it'll create a list item, like in this HTML, with the key 1, and then with the title cabbage, and then it'll finish. And as soon as it gets here, it goes back and does the next product, and so on for garlic and apple. And then we'll have 3 list items. And then return UL unordered list. That's like bullet points rather than it being 1, 2, and 3 of all the list items. So this is an object that we created up here. And once this is done being created, this object is in JSX, right? It's got like a bunch of list items inside. And see, this is confusing to me. What does list items look like inside? Is it an object? What does it look like? Yeah, this part is going above my head a little bit. Okay, so UL is telling it how to display the list items, and then this is a bunch of list items. It's called list items because it is made of list items. But like, what is this? An object? Like, what is it? I'm going to try to reproduce list items. It's an array of list items. Yeah, hey, welcome back, Pay the Toll. Good to see you. Pay the Toll asks, hey, just curious, is front-end development like getting people to pay the toll? The troll toll to get to the end game stuff? Yeah, you gotta pay the troll toll to get to the end game stuff. We all know that famous quote from Always Sunny. It's good to see you again. That's like 3 for 3, Pay the Toll. It's an array, Skoho? Both of you. Thank you. See, this is it. You thought I was joking when I said this is where Derek learns React and you all help me. Haha, we're actually doing it. So we're going to inspect this thing that's being rendered here on the side. What's the fastest way to make... Yes. We need this to be legible for everyone. All right. Okay. So we are where? Here. And we are trying to see simply what's going on right here. I want to know about, yes, this whole section. There we go. So, oh no, this is after it gets rendered. So it's already kind of chopped up. So we're in the HTML of the document. This is like a document inside of the rest of the page. So it's got our HTML, got a heading, gives us some metadata on the page, and then we've got our body. We've got a div. Notice on the left, it's like visually showing me which things I'm doing. I'll make this a little bigger for you. Why not? So we've got our div. In it, we've got an unordered list. That means give me the little dots. And then 3 list items. The list items have the style up here, colored dark green. But how did it get that? It happened procedurally, depending on whether isFruit was true or not. Oh, they added isFruit. We're kind of doing this in the wrong order. Thank you for clipping me, Pay the Toll. Go ahead and post that and tag Ethereum Denver on Twitter, and we'll see what happens. Truly, that would mean a lot to me. Marker. Oh, the marker. That's what it's called, list item marker. And then cabbage. Cool. But how do I inspect? Yeah, I understand how the HTML ends, like where we get by the end of it. But what I don't understand is what format the data is in right after list items is done being created. So what I'm going to do is a classic list items. What? Why do you hate it? What's wrong? Why can't I do that? Fine, I'll do it over here. Yes. Okay. Console. It made the console over here? Are you kidding? We love the beta docs. Okay. I can't really adjust it. So it's an array, Skoho. You were right. It's an array. And in the array, the first item is an object. Wow, with a lot more information than I expected. And I'm imagining a lot of this information is coming from the Key, okay, that we're creating explicitly. Type, like, we didn't specify type. That's the li part right here. Style. Then we did color. Like ref, we didn't do explicitly. Style was a props, I guess. Like that. See, so much is happening under the hood. I knew I didn't understand. And then that's done, and then it makes two more of those, two fancy objects. So it's an array of 3 objects. 4? Hello? How many times does it do it? Oh, there's a lot Derek doesn't understand about how many times this function gets run in React. We'll get to that later. Cool. Okay, so what are we learning in this section? To conditionally format? No, to render lists. And then in the context of the list, we're able to do .map. That's fancy. We generate our array of list items. So we had an array of list items, and then we made, that was called products. We had an array of products that were not in JSX yet. And then we turned that into a new object called list items that had the same information, but then we added around it this list item thing, and we're starting to save some of the attributes so that we could get it ready to render. And then we rendered it in the context of an unordered list tag. Notice how the list item tag has a key attribute. For each item in a list, you should pass a string or a number that uniquely identifies that item among its siblings. Usually, a key should be coming from your data, such as the database ID. React will rely on your keys to understand what happened if you later insert, delete, or reorder the items. Again, not super opinionated. React is sitting here like, all right, you tell me what the IDs are, and then I'll sort them, by in some kind of order. We're more than halfway through Quick Start. It's working. We're learning. Responding to events. Oh, we're covering so much ground. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how fast we're moving? I'm going to get this. So we've already learned what a component is and learned how to put one inside of another one. Learned how to use curly braces to do JavaScript logic in the middle of the HTML with JSX. We've added some basic styles and learned that we got to have a CSS file somewhere else so that we can actually describe what our H1 should look like. We've displayed data, which we can use the curly braces just to call the variable name or some particular attribute on an object and just be like, whatever it is, display it here in the H1, like user.name. Conditional rendering, if is logged in is true, do this component. If it's not, do this login component so they can log in. And then we just did lists. Up next, we're going to respond to events, like when you click buttons. Updating the screen, that's going to be huge. Like how does the app know, hey, something probably just happened where I should change what is being displayed on screen to be more up to date. And then we get into hooks and sharing data. Okay. All 4 of these, huge. Yes, pay the toll. List like your partner gives you need to do around the house. Yeah, honey, if you'd just given it to me in JSON, I would have been able to parse it. So let's learn about responding to events. Big mode. Oop, too big. You can respond to events by declaring event handler functions inside your components. This comes from JavaScript. So we have a button. This is our component. We create a function called handle click. This is something we're writing from scratch right now. What does handle click do? It does an alert. This exists inside of JavaScript that throws up the string, you clicked me, ! Well, when does handle click the function get called? In this myButton component, we return what was it called? You have display data and logic. Is that how they refer to it? So down here in our, that's not right. There's something about display and logic. So here we have our button tag. Here's where it closes. The button will have the text click me, but then here we have on click. On click, something happens. Specifically, handle click, a function we wrote above, gets called. Tell me about on click. Notice how on click has no parentheses at the end. Do not call the event handler function. You only need to pass it down. React will call your event handler when the user clicks the button. Oh. Huh? Yeah, this is weird, right? This is where you would do like an ID tag. Like, I don't understand how a function... They're trying to tell me, but I still don't understand. This is where you would do like this kind of a thing. This is just like data. Like, here's what key it is. Or up above, the like CSS class name. Where was our class name? Yeah, like this kind of stuff. This is all just information. But here we're telling it a bit of logic, what to do when it's clicked. So here's the part I know I don't understand. MDN on click. Tell me, on click. So this is in JavaScript. An element receives a click event when a pointing device button, such as a mouse's primary mouse button, is both pressed and released. Okay, I get what a click is. Mouse down and mouse up events have fired in that order, down, up. Syntax. Add event listener. We did not do that. Click, event, and then do some stuff. Arrow notation. Crazy. On click, and then event. And then the stuff. Insane. Yep. A little above my pay grade. That's fine. So we're being told to write this in the opening tag of the button. This is called an event handler function. Event handler function. I wonder what kinds of things would be written like this later. So this is for the button. We're going to have a button. Because like most things in websites, like, are clickable. Shoot. You know what I mean? Most UI elements. Okay, we were down. Great. Updating the screen. That's it? That's all you're going to tell me for now? Okay. So this is how event handler functions work. I have to say it several times because it was so concise and I could tell I'm not super getting it. We can respond to events by declaring the event handler function inside the component. Oh, this is the event handler function, handle click. So we declare it in the component where it's relevant. My button, handle click. Okay, so this could be used across several components if it were behavior that was going to happen across lots of different components in different parts of the UI. Or we could hard code it into this particular component if this is the only place this thing happens. And then down here, this is the part that is not clicking yet. On click, handle click. Handle click, I get. Curly brace is telling us, oh, go JavaScript mode, do the thing, alert. But it's this on click that has no parentheses. That's bizarre. Okay, we're moving on. What pay grade should we ask about that? I mean, frankly, because I said this is above my pay grade to understand basic JavaScript. So if you know more JavaScript than me, you probably are making 75 to 300,000 a year. That's just probably true, depending on where you are and what kind of stuff you're doing. I don't know enough to get an intro job. So everyone who does anything for money is above my pay grade. I'm not professional in front end, but that's why we're here. Updating the screen, just a couple more sections. Often, You'll want your component to remember some information and display it, like number of times you've clicked. This is like the hello world for JavaScript. Remember and display number of times it's been clicked. For example, you would want to count the number of times. Unclear whether my peripheral vision had read that and parsed it, or whether I've done enough of these tutorials that I just knew that was where we were going. To do this, add state to your component. We're going to deal with state. We're going to deal with state. First, import useState from React. Okay. This would go at the top of our file. No problem there. Now you can declare a state variable inside your component. It has this very specific syntax. Const, square bracket, count, and set count. This is the setter for this variable. This is React specific. Equals useState, and then in here, the initial value. You will get two things from useState: the current state, count, and the function that lets you update it. This is where React finally gets opinionated, and it's like, you're not allowed to update count. Only I can do that, and you're only allowed to do it through this set count function that you create at the same moment you create the count variable. And the reason it does it that way, among many, many more complicated things I don't understand, is so that it can keep track of when count gets updated and then update other stuff at the same time. You can give them any names, but the convention is to call them in something and set something. Lower camel case where the caps are every word after the first one. Set whatever. Okay, that I can do. What are these called? State? Hooks? This is called state. The first time the button is displayed, count will be 0 because we passed 0 into useState when we initialized it. When you want to change state, call setCount, and then in the parentheses, pass whatever the new value is, such as count plus plus, or count plus 1, or just a hard-coded number that's the new count. Clicking this button will increment the counter. So here we go. Up at the top, we use state to create our count variable with the initial value 0. We have also established its setter function, which is the only way we're allowed to update it. And then this button, when somebody clicks, handle click, the function gets called. We're writing that right here. What does handle click do? It calls this setCount function and passes in the new value of count. As soon as this resolves, count, the state of count, will be updated to this. Hi, Bishamba. Good to see you again. Oh, that's a treat. I'll read that in a moment just so I don't lose my train of thought here. So that's what our button is. Click, count times. How come I can't run this? I can't. You know it's a good tutorial when the exact thing you start thinking next, they're like, yeah, no, that's what's next. React will call your component function again. This time count will be 1, and so on. If you render the same component multiple times, each will get its own state. Try clicking the buttons separately. Ooh, fancy. So we've got our app component. I didn't know you could have the functions below. I love this much more. Got our div, h1, counters that update separately, dude, astronaut. Great. Ooh, wraps around. My button and my button. We didn't even have to call them different my buttons. That's fun. React's smart. We didn't have to do like const button 1 equals my button and const button 2 equals my button. You could just plop them in there. Function my button does all this stuff. Okay. Clicked count times. Okay. Uh-huh. And it doesn't affect the other buttons, even though they share the same variable names. Wow. Oh, wow. Before we do that, I want to decrement. Does it start over? I love it. I love it. I love it. And the way we've done this, the buttons have to have the same logic, and that's what we want. Interesting. Interesting. Using hooks. We're almost done with our quick start. Functions starting with use are called hooks. This is a React thing, not a JavaScript or an HTML thing. Use state is a built-in hook provided by React. You can find other built-in hooks in the React API reference. What does API stand for? Application something interface. Application programming interface. Cool. You can also write your own hooks by combining the existing ones. Well, that's fun. Just screams money Legos, DeFi, composability. Hooks are more restrictive than regular functions. You can only call hooks at the top level of your components or other hooks. If you want to use useState in a condition or a loop, extract a new component and put it there. I don't understand, so please explain it to me. Which is at the top level of your components. So we used useState, and I don't know whether this was at the top level. So here's where it was. And this was here, which is in app.js. So you're telling me we could not have done this inside of a component. But we did. It's inside of my button. So at what level can we not do it? Yes, we're definitely talking about scope beam. Thank you for helping me remember the vocabulary here. So we're in the scope of the myButton function. So I don't know what it means by top level. It doesn't mean the very toppiest, because then everything would have to be in this app.js file outside of functions, which wouldn't make sense to me. I mean, you could do it that way. It's just not the way it is. You can only call hooks at the top level of your components. Oh, you can't do it in the return. That's a great example. Thank you for clarifying, Skoho. At the top level of the component where it's being used. Okay, so in myButton, if I want to use useState, it has to be not inside some like subsection of scope. Like it can't even be in like a for loop. You know what I mean? Like, could I do this? So this is always true. Oh, wow. It's throwing an error for a different reason. Okay. Doesn't work when it's inside this object. Okay. There we go. React hook useState is called in function name. That is neither a React function component nor a custom React hook function. React component names must start with an uppercase letter. React hook names must start with the word use. Okay, can I trick it? Haha, okay. Very fun. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand all the ways something cannot be at the top level, because this is not immediately clear to me. What are all the ways I could mess this up? Where are the middle and bottom levels of the component? I'm not sure yet, but I appreciate that you would, like, basically between opening curly brace and return. That's my current way of answering that question based on Skoho, what you're telling me. So thank you. That's what it means to be at the top level. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Great. They're still negative. That's great. Okay. So those are our hooks. There are other hooks that will be super important later. But for now, we have use state that lets us keep track of state, because React is not very prescriptive, but it is prescriptive when it comes to state and updating variables. You have to use state, and that square brackets and the getter and the setter, and that's how it's going to be, okay? And it's got to be at the top level of the component, okay? There are very few like hard, fast rules, but this is one of the first, like, if you're going to do React, you got to do this things. If you want to use state in a condition or a loop, extract a new component and put it there. Like a loop component, like the where you were going to do the looping, you're like, you're not allowed to do that. That's not the top level. And then you're like, okay, this is now the top level of itself, which is a new thing called looping component. And then you can do use state there and do the looping, and then it's done with whatever its output is. And then you exit that component and have the result of whatever looping you were trying to do. Okay, before we get to sharing data between components, I want to read what Friend said. Beam says, I see this as iterations of data transformation that in the end results in what the browser parses. It adds layers to reduce the amount of code you would need to type to get the same result. Yeah, it's trying to be, a word might be concise or like, what do we talk? Developer ergonomics or developer experience, like to make it a little easier for you to generate the same result, a website that shows certain data a certain way. And then B. Shambaugh said, make sure you remember what your mother said. Eat your fruits and vegetables. I've been learning React recently via the free Codecamp YouTube, and I used CodeSandbox.io, which offers slightly different display attributes in the browser. You're further along than me with React. I'm enjoying the cheat sheet. I'm supposed to go for a walk now. I don't want to go, but maybe I'll catch you soon. Are you even still here? That was 10 minutes ago. And if you are here, can I refer to you by your first name? Because I happen to remember it. I just don't want to dox you. I've got a lot of personally identifiable information in my head. Don't I, Beam? Let's finish it up. Sharing data between components. In the previous example, each My button had its own independent count. And when each button was clicked, only the count for the button click changed. So here's how that worked. We had the My app, and then there were two different My buttons. We didn't even name them different things, which I still love. And then when we, initially, they both had count, and it was set to 0. And then when we clicked My button, the first of the two, only its count updated to 1, not both, despite them having the same variable name, count. Magic. However, often you'll need components to share data and always update together. Reasonable. To make both My button components display the same count and update together, you will need to move the state from the individual buttons upwards to the closest component containing all of them. In this example, it's My app. Ooh, let's see if I can do that before they tell us how. Above return. We know it has to be above return. Thank you, this Skoho. And count's not defined. That's because we haven't learned about passing it down yet. Count. Object with keys. Got it. Yep. Okay. We don't know enough React. First, we move it up. The function. Okay. That I could do. I know it's about to be below it, but I just want to like actually practice. And we bring this part up. And we'll change it back to increment rather than decrement. Yep, definitely we're missing a curly brace. Let's go recover it. Oh, where is it? I'll do this the hard way. I'll put it here, and then I'll go find where the extra one is. Is it this one? Yes. Yes. However, even though state is happening up at the My App level, these buttons don't have counts. Oh, I definitely did this wrong. This is fun. I did this super wrong. Ooh, I love that. How were we supposed to do it? Oh, handle click. I was supposed to make an event handler function. Handle. I got it. Okay, I can do that. Oh, I was only supposed to bring this out. I see. And this is my wrapper. This goes around the button. That's fine. Take that, slap it down here. I don't have a linting software, so everything's in a crazy way, but it's working. Cool. Recap, reset, run it back. I want these buttons to share state. So rather than have use state at the component level, I'm going to take it out and up to the My App level before the return, because that's how hooks work. Then I'm also going to take handle click and bring it outside of the button. So the button is just the display logic. Up at the My App level, I'm going to define this handle click function. Which is for surely defined in the scope above my button. Oh, thanks, Pay the Toll. That's very sweet. What did I do radically differently this time? Okay, button, on click, do handle click. But I don't know about handle click. Well, you should, because you're a function inside of my app. And right above you is handle click. It is defined. How did I do this differently than last time? I have to pass count as props to my buttons. Here? Indeed I do. But how does that tell it what handle click is? Even if that works. It doesn't. Okay. I don't think I need to pass count, but I do need handle click. Like, I need it to be aware of handle click, and I don't understand why it's not. No. Let's give us a little more room to see. Hopefully that's still legible. Let me know if it's not. Huh, this is clever. My app. Oh. Okay, so this is a separate function, my button. Of course it doesn't know about handle click. That's interesting. So what if handle click only exists at the my button level? Then you don't know count. Then we'd say what the whole... Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't know how to do that yet. Oh, that's how you do it? And it doesn't work? Okay. So I think it's reasonable to have handle click up at the My App level. Intuitively. My button, it's bothering me that it's below My App. I still don't believe that that's a thing that's possible. That wasn't it. Did you define my button inside my app before? Wait, where did it go? There we go. Function my button. Before what? Darn you, scope. Darn you, Scope. Every time. So the page is my app, and it's aware of handle click. And then it's rendering these. And as these are being parsed, they are not aware of handle click. Okay, let's learn more. Did I find my button inside my app? Oh, I see. Something like this. Yeah, I guess that is something like that is how we did it. We just did the entire thing inside my app. But that's not how we're going to do things. We're going to learn how it recommends we split it up. So first, we move the state up from my button to my app, specifically this use state that's keeping track of count and the handle click function. These are in my app. Yep, we took it out of my button. That part we have above the return within my app, not in my button, right? That's exactly where we are. Not on my button, above the return. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. By the way, use state 0. Great. Now what? Then pass the state down from my app to each my button together with the shared click handler. Ooh, you can pass information to my button using the JSX curly braces, just like you previously did with built-in tags like image. Right here, we can give the component state. And this is the key thing I learned today. Count equals count, the variable in JavaScript. OnClick equals handle click, the function in JavaScript. Okay. Let's try it out. I'm sure it's happening right below here. It is, in fact. So the information you pass down like this is called props, which I assume is short for properties. Now, the MyApp component contains the count state and the handle click event handler and passes both of them down as props to each of the buttons. Finally, change my button to read the props that you've passed from its parent component. Now, when we're defining my button, instead of these being empty parentheses, we are actually receiving input parameters, which we are calling in the context of React props. And we are destructuring it. Notice, are we? No, this is just JSX. Okay. Wow, that's crazy. What are these curly braces doing? They're just telling it JavaScript mode? No, everything else is in JavaScript mode. So it's more like object destructuring, right? It's bizarre to me that, okay, for now, brain, when you're defining React components, which are functions, and you are passing props in, you have to do curly braces around the things that you're passing in so that the component conceives of them all these props, one or several, as an object with these things inside. We're giving it one input parameter, an object. And that object, these aren't even key value pairs. Like, I don't even understand in what sense this is an object. This is just the variable count. Count is extremely fancy. This is not a number. This is like a bizarre React state object with lots of stuff going on, of which only one part is the current value of count. And then also onClick, the function. I just didn't know you could do like, as in the context of an object, I didn't know you could do like stuff, comma, other stuff. Like just like an array, I suppose. Okay. So, and then button onClick, clicked count times. Okay, we have to tell it how to use it. Oh, that's a lot of things we need to change. Let's change them. Button. Hey, you're going to get a count, and that's going to be count. And you're also going to on click, here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to handle click that function that we wrote. All right, nice. Nice. Okay, so now my button is being passed down the props count and handle click. So it needs to receive them. Count, handle click. Does the order matter? Button, on click, handle click, click count times. Let's find out. Bizarre? It's not passing state up. It's not correctly calling set count. Is it not allowed to or something? Update which function inside my button? To do what differently? I mean, we did update it in the sense that I changed this part. You called it on click. This is happening here. Why do I even need to pass this? I don't understand where it's happening. Bullshit. Okay. Horrible. Horrible. We all agree this is horrible. That up in my app, where I've defined the function handle click, that's a custom function. I came up with that name, or I was told to. And then we use it here at where we create the component, the particular my button, of which there are two. These just, I cannot tolerate these having the same name for now. I need to understand them as differently. So this ID, this is going to be like count I'm passing. Count being passed. Count prop equals, right? So is this right? Crazy. It doesn't even, okay, great. I want it to break. Count prop. Count prop. Okay, so great. Now they look different. This is fine. On click prop. On click prop. On click prop. On click to on click prop. Thank God. Okay. Do you know how frustrating it as a tutorial? You can't have two completely different things share a name and not make it clear that they're different things. This is the on-click handler. This is a thing we made up. And we were calling it the same thing. And it was absolutely not clear what was happening to me in the syntax. Oh yeah, on click you do on click, which was on click that you handle clicked. You can't use the same thing for three. Yeah, we have seen it in other tutorials, Beam. This is like one of my pet peeves during teaching. Is like you've introduced a brand new thing, which is passing down state via a prop and then receiving it like this and then using it in this way. And you're making it completely ambiguous with the thing that already existed in JavaScript, the onClick event handler. Shame on you. Where's the feedback button? Is this page useful? Thumbs down. No, it's a great page, but this is just one of my strong opinions in the context of writing tutorials. Okay, I feel better now. I understand that these are two different things. Let's review. Use state is happening at the top level. We have count and set count. Handle click is a function we wrote that updates with set count. That's fine. We have the my button component, which we pass in 2 bits of state, pass down 2 bits of state, which are called props. One, what is this called? This name. This is like the key. Like we're passing in the ID or key count prop, and we're passing in this other prop. Like what are props referred to as? Like we're passing in the blank onClick prop. The prop onClick prop. We're passing in these 2 props. I just don't know what this one's called and what this one's called. Like the 2 sides of this equation. It's not like key and value, is it? And then down here, we receive them from above. The button component receives them from the higher level of scope, count prop and onClick prop. I don't even think we have to use these names. Do we? Is it by name or is it by order? Can we go like count proop? If I make these proop, and as long as I'm internally consistent, is that fine? Is it? No, it's not, even though it's rendering. Why? Okay, fine. So it matters. So it's the name that matters. And if it's the name that matters and not the order that matters, I should be able to receive these in a different order than how I pass them in. I pass them in count prop and then onClick prop. OnClick prop, that's this one exactly, by name, and count prop, that's this one exactly. And it does in fact work. That's amazing. I love that. Finally, I'm back in a good mood. So you can pass props down to a component, and then the component has to receive them by that same name that they were passed down in any order, but by that same name, and then use them by that same name. Or, like let onClick prop in the button context equal onClick prop. And then this can be that. So you could play that game and rename stuff, but when you receive it, it has to have the same name in the props. Okay, that's fine. Undo. Great. Passing a prop called count prop, which references the variable named count. Okay, thank you for that terminology, Beam. Appreciate it. Beam, Mr. I gotta go, I'm not really here, pays super close attention and is super useful. You should have just been up in the studio. Oops, how do we get here? Great. Passed it down. Okay, that's fine. That's it? Is that all for now? Oh, I was working up there, right. Yeah, variable named count. The new count value is passed as a prop. So they all show. This is called lifting state up. By moving state up, we've shared it between components. If it's some state that multiple components are going to need to be aware of, you can't have it just in one component. If sibling components at a same level are going to need to know, then you've got to lift it up to a higher level, like something that's wrapping all those components, and handle it there, and then pass it down as props into each of them so that they can all be aware of it being managed at that higher level together. Okay, fine. Fine, React, I'll do it that way. By now, you know the basics of how to write React code. Check out the tutorial to put them into practice and build your first mini app with React. And that's exactly what we'll do next time. Tic-tac-toe. Wow, this was a very good strategy for us. For me at least, definitely knew that I was going to need to start at the beginning. I leveled up in the server? Jenna responded in level up? Cursed response? Delete the channel forever? No, I'm looking for Code Along with Derek, which is a horrible place to put this, but good enough. Front end Wednesday. Smash. We're going to be doing tic-tac-toe next time. All right. Get rid of that. It's me. No, give me more like, there we go. Yes. We did it. My socials, the SCOHO. I would not mind dropping my socials at all. Thank you for asking. I am being asked to share my socials. First of all, I'm not here for me. I'm here for ETH Denver and the community at large. So let's start there. Follow ETH Denver on Twitch. If you're watching right now and you're not following, probably you are, or else how would you have known this was happening? You all knew because Twitch went live. We're also on YouTube, ETH Denver. Go ahead and subscribe to that channel. I'll wait. And then also on Twitter, at Ethereum Denver. That one's Ethereum Denver, just like Twitch. Depending on the social media platform, we're either ETH Denver or Ethereum Denver. I know, it's a bummer. As for me, I'm on Twitter at the Derek. I'll share it, I guess. I'm on Twitter at the Derek. TheDerrek. I am outrageously good looking. It's like a Derek Zoolander kind of a thing. Is that it? What else? Any other questions, friends, before we pack it up for the day? Right on time. 3 to 5 Mountain, like I promised on the community calendar. The community calendar! For the love of the community, you must add this Google Calendar to your Google Calendar. Where's our link? Public URL. Aha. How do I share it with you? Aha. Aha. Okay, that worked. So go ahead and open that up, and you can have it forever in your Google Calendar as something you can hide or show or whatever. Notice that this week it is jam-packed. This is my attempt to be way more consistent and way more clear with what we're doing and when. On Monday, we had a Solidity code along. That started back up for the first time in a long time. On Tuesday, I had an amazing conversation with Reika.eth, the founder of Guild.xyz. She's just incredible. She's like a force of nature. Go watch the recording. Highly recommend. We talk marketing. We shoot the shit. I haven't decided whether I'm profane on these streams. I apologize in advance to anyone for whom that's a problem, including potential advertisers or algorithms. It's 2022 and I'm apologizing in advance to algorithms. On Wednesday, that's today, we talked about front end and learned basic React. Good job, everyone. Thank you for your help along the way. Thank you, Jenniverse, for being here. It was your first... Oh, you do back end. What do you mean you do back end? Like Node or Python or what? Or Rust? God forbid. Tomorrow is allegedly Design Thursdays. I need your help. I don't know what tutorial to look at for that. I don't know what the equivalent, like, here's Patrick Collins' smart contract course. Here's the React docs for front end. I don't know what, like, a reference or Bible I could use for graphic design. Like, I want to start with UI UX and understand user stories and stuff before we get all the way into, like, pixel perfect Figmas and blah, blah, blah. Because that's cool. to be able to make like really cute Figmas to pass to the front end person, just to be like, make it like that. Because front end people love being told what to do. They're very submissive that way. They're like, don't make me think, just tell me, like, if it needs to be border radius 50, I can make it border radius 50. I just don't want to have to think what the border radius should be. So they like being bossed around. Would love a deep dive into Web3 tooling like Ethers.js, Hardhat. The Scoho, join us on Mondays. That's exactly what we do. We use Ethers and Hardhat every Monday. When I say every, I mean we did it this Monday and we'll be doing it in the future. We also were doing it on Tuesdays 3 months ago, which Beam was consistently there for. But we're picking that back up again on Mondays on the community calendar, which you just added to your Google Calendar, didn't you? Because I would love to see you there next time, Scoho. I really appreciated your presence today. Very useful. I hope you got something out of it too. And then last but not least, on Fridays, you see how there's this like one a day, Monday through Friday kind of thing I'm going for. On Fridays, of course, our community call, which overlaps with the Tally Ho call. So Beam's never there. Wait, didn't we move it? Beam, is the current time, which is 1 Mountain, the same or right before the Tally Ho one? Or is it right? It's right after, right? It used to be an hour earlier and that overlapped. We didn't even get a bunch of Tally Ho spillover, even though it was in Discord. Why weren't your 2,000 bots following me into Discord? Is it because Tavern Keeper did a good job of keeping them out? Or because we didn't promise them enough OATs? Do we pronounce it OAT or OAT? Beam, you do backend Python. We know that. I know that. And learning JavaScript, TypeScript, and React with some Solidity. So here's my vision. I want your feedback on this, all of you right now. My vision of where all of this culminates, this is like the end of my rant that was in the beginning, that we're in the learning phase. All of us are learning different things. Smart contracts and Solidity or whatever. You got your back end and Rust or Python or JavaScript or whatever. Then you got your front end, probably React, probably TypeScript, ideally. Maybe you have a UI framework like a Tailwind or Material UI or whatever. And you need to make these choices. Or at least the members of your team that handle these things need to make these choices. What skill set do I have? So we're in that phase. I'm being opinionated. When it comes to front end, we're going to do React. When it comes to smart contracts, we're going to do Solidity. And you can understand why I make these choices. And then we put our heads down and go through tutorials week after week. Learn, 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 learn. What's the goal though? The goal is by the time ETH Denver starts in late February, we are at a place where we can show up and say, I know how to fork a smart contract and then modify it for my needs. Or I know how to fork a front end and then modify it for my needs. So the other goal, in addition to the skills, is to have that specific forkable repo also ready to go. So in the same way that one of my favorite streamers, his name slips my mind, and that's really embarrassing right after calling him my favorite streamer. Can we edit this out in post? He said to no one. Theo.gg. So Theo streams about development and is a founder himself. And he has a stack called T3 because it uses 3 T's. TypeScript, TRPC, and Tailwind for TypeScript, React for the front end, TRPC for some simple backend middleware stuff and to hook up to other APIs and databases and stuff, and then Tailwind for the styling specifically. And that's like an amazing stack that's way above my skill set. And that's basically where we're going because I'm in charge here and I don't know what other way to go. Tailwind seems amazing and flexible. Geniverse, you don't know about these other... Okay, I'm getting excited because you all of you here are like definitely vibing with where we're going and what I'm talking about, which I appreciate. Geniverse, let's help Geniverse out. What are some other streamers who do live coding tutorials? If you want to have fun and just like watch somebody crazy, there's the Primeagen on YouTube. I'll like go back to streaming for a second. Where's that tab? This tab? This tab? Okay, cool. The Primeagen. He's fun. All Rust. He's a Rust maxi, so just watch him because he's silly and does Rust. Then you've got who I'm actually referring to, who's like a good use of your time. Theo, who runs T3.gg. Excuse me. Definitely appreciate his style. That's So much clickbait. It's always the clickbait, but he's so good. He's so good with the clickbait. He does like the super long streams, and then he has an editor chop them up into smaller streams for his YouTube content. You get the game. So highly recommend Theo. Where? Yeah, here's where he shills T3. Just I love the clickbait too. I was wrong about JavaScript. Is Rust the worst? And then me, your new favorite streamer for learning about coding. Not because I'm any good at it, but because I'm a decent the term in movies is audience surrogate. I'm also the newbie, like the people who are watching and trying to learn. I'm not the expert. We're learning together. So that's the model we're going for here. So where I think we're trying to get to, like, if there was no constraint on how much time you had to prepare, I think an amazing goal to get as a developer, a truly full stack developer, would be, TypeScript, React, and Next.js and Tailwind for your front end. I think we throw TRPC in there so that you can just like have backend be good enough super fast and not have to think too hard and get all the TypeScript stuff and not have to do super fancy GraphQL or whatever. I'm definitely talking out of my rear end because I don't know what I don't know. So that would be what I want to learn. I want to learn React and then Next.js and React, and then in no particular order, Tailwind and Next.js, and Tailwind UI because I'm lazy and just want their pre-made components, but still want to learn Tailwind. And GitHub Copilot. And I just want to get to a place where I'm like, GitHub Copilot, I'm going to need like a top-level React component that uses Tailwind UI to give me 3 green buttons in the nav bar, and they say this, that, and the other. And it's just like, boom, and then it's done. And I'm like, that's 90% of what I meant. And also I know how to read this and change it into what I really want. That's when you're ready. That's when you can just show up and be like, oh, you guys need a front end dev? No problem. And you're just using AI to like generate stuff. And this is why you need the forkable repo too. You start with the forkable repo, which is a code base. GitHub Copilot like uses the context of the code base to have information about what to do. So when you already have a context where it's all set up and you say something like, use Wallet Connect to create a Connect Wallet button in the top right that's orange and has rounded corners, then it does it, and it probably is exactly what you want, and maybe it doesn't understand Wallet Connect super well and you have to like call the method differently, but you know how to do that, you've done it before. That's when you're ready to create a gorgeous UI that actually works and is a live demo in like 3 days. That's when you're ready. So we're trying to get there. Skoho, you asked what TRPC is. I don't know. I just hear him talk about it a lot. Let's figure it out real quick. Let's do the like super quick. What is TRPC? End-to-end type-safe APIs. So when you need to make API calls, you can know whether or not they're type-safe. So TypeScript lets you be type-safe in the context of your own app. And then TRPC lets you be type-safe in the context of other APIs you're interacting with, like other, like, I don't know, backend stuff, middleware stuff. So this like, it's like slightly more overhead as a developer for this type safety, but then you save so much debugging time. Like if you make any changes or you're setting it up, it's just like letting you know way ahead of time, like, hey, you like are completely wrong in the things you're passing in and what their types are. And it works well with Next.js. This is going to be a long journey, okay? You don't just get to like spend 2 hours a week learning this stuff and suddenly be like industry standard React, Next.js, TRPC. This is going to be a community building effort for the long run. But that's so cute. Jason. Who's Jason? He looks like a streamer. So that's where we're going. One day at a time. Thank you all for joining. This has been an absolute pleasure and a treat. I like learning. It makes my brain feel like it's on fire, which is one of my favorite feelings as a human being. Just like, oh, I'm learning. But at the same time, it's really uncomfortable when I'm learning and I realize I'm being given something I don't understand. Like when we had the double curly braces and I was like, but why? And then we rearranged it to understand, oh, that's what that is. So one little baby step at a time. We're already way ahead of our skis jumping into React without being JavaScript experts, personally. I am. I'll use I statements here. So there's going to be a lot of this like, what's the phrase? Like we know enough to be dangerous. We know enough to think we know enough. And that's where we're going to start making a bunch of mistakes. And then when we make mistakes, we're going to learn from them because we have each other. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Which is why I hope to see you all tomorrow when we dig into design stuff. If anyone thinks of any cool design docs that we might be able to use for that, please let me know. Because again, I want to start with UI UX, but if I'm feeling lazy, we're just going to start learning like Figma and Tailwind and just start learning like graphic design, because a lot of front-end developers are allergic to graphic design and they're like, I don't want to have to think about styling. In the same way I hate copywriting. I'm just like, I can write sentences, but as long as they don't have to sound good. I hate writing. So a lot of front-end developers hate graphic design. I don't want to make the website cute. And I'm stealing one of Theo's main talking points. He's like, you're a front-end developer. Your job is making the website. It's your craft. Of course you're responsible for making it look good. That's the thing you do. You make the website. You can't abdicate that responsibility and just be like, Bootstrap, Material UI, could you do it for me? And then suddenly you've got some generic looking website that looks like everybody else. Nah, this is your craft. Be proud of it. All right. Thank you all for joining. I've had a lot of fun doing this, and it's proven that this is an experiment worth repeating, even if it's just us. Tell your friends, and it'll be same time next week. So whether I see you next week or Thursday or Friday or just around the Discord or at ETH Denver in February, thanks for being here. Until next time. Oh, bye.